Hi, I'm Jenna Eyre. I'm an associate with CBRE, and I focus on occupiers in the market and tenant representation. CBRE is pleased to partner with Silicon Slopes in hosting these town hall events. CBRE understands our technology clients because CBRE is a technology-driven company. CBRE invests in technology to help you invest in your growth. To learn more about how CBRE can help service your real estate needs, visit cbre.com.
All right, welcome to the Silicon Slopes Town Hall. We're joined by Executech CEO DJ Dorff. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. It's the beautiful month of September. How is your fall going?
So fall is good. My wife is happy because now she gets to bust out all of her fall clothes. So that means I'm doing pretty well myself. And at Executech, we've seen things really pick back up the last few months. So overall, things are going pretty well.
Very cool. So you have an awesome name, and then you were also a DJ in high school. Let's just start with a fun one.
Yeah, so I grew up in Indiana, and at my high school we had a radio station, and so it was a class that took all 4 years. Our teacher loved 80s music, and so I would just have shifts throughout the week being a DJ on the radio, and probably the highlight was I'm really into sports, and so I got to have my own sports show on Saturday mornings with one of my friends, and it was really cool being on the radio, and anyone in Indianapolis could hear it, and it was a great experience.
Very cool. Did you talk about like Hoosiers basketball, Indianapolis 500?
Oh yeah, all things Peyton Manning, Pacers, Indy 500. I mean, you name it, we were talking about it.
So if I say Larry Bird, you say?
I say there's so many things I would say. My mom grew up in Boston, but I'm thinking Magic Johnson right now because I'm picturing some of their great duels.
Yeah, I love Larry Bird. He's on the Mount Rushmore as far as I'm concerned. Ooh. All right, let's jump in. So what is Executech? What do you guys do, and how do you do it?
Yeah, so Executech, we provide outsourced IT services. So this can take the form of augmenting IT staff at a company that has some IT staff already. Most commonly, we're fulfilling the role of the entire IT department. So everything down from day-to-day end-user support at the help desk level to kind of IT director, CIO level support. We also provide cloud and security consulting and managed services. And we'll work with companies of any size. Our typical client probably has 50 to 100 employees. We work with many clients that have hundreds or thousands. We're scattered across the West, so pretty much between the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, that's where we play.
Really cool. So I was playing golf with a guy, and he said when he gets to the office, if he opens his computer and turns it on, then he's good. If not, he calls the IT support.
Yeah, that would be us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's people that run the gamut of that, too. They can get pretty close to figuring it out on their own and then calling you guys for help. So is 2020 a good year for Executech or a bad year?
If you would have asked me in January what our goals were and said this is what life is going to look like at the end of September, I would have told you that we were having a good, not great year. Given everything that's happened with COVID, I would say we're having a great year. We're fortunate that we're in IT services, right? This isn't a nice to have for businesses. Everybody needs IT support. So on that end, we haven't been impacted as much as other industries. At the same time, we're a reflection of our clients. And we work with performing arts centers, we work with restaurants, we work with hotels. And so to the extent that they've been impacted, we've been impacted too. But overall, I'm very pleased with how the year has gone. We're used to growing 20 to 25% year over year. This year is going to be a little bit more flat, but I think given everything that's happened, I'll take it.
Yeah. So the basic business model for Executech is it's a service provider, correct?
Yep.
And on day one, there's one product or maybe one service. You guys have grown into that, but how does your business model, how is it impacted by new product ideas and things like that? And how do you ultimately decide what to do?
Yeah, so ultimately for most of our clients, they're bringing us in to do something that they don't want to do or they can't do themselves. And it's around being their IT department. So it is very common for us when we are meeting with a new client or even a current client to say, look, I hired you to tell me what I don't know. And so, in terms of the business model, we're taking care of, yes, the day-to-day end user support needs. Hey, I need to connect to the printer. I need to reset my password. And we have to be excellent at those things. But that doesn't really separate us. What separates us is that ability to have more of that proactive approach where we can vet new technologies, where we can see things coming. And so for us, our business is really set up on this idea that we need to be that expertise that our clients don't have, and not only have that expertise, but provide it in a way that creates a partnership as opposed to just a vendor-client relationship.
Yeah. So, assuming a few things here, but somebody pings you or your sales folks ping them and they want to become a customer.
Yeah.
Who has the most patience on your team, the onboarding folks or the actual IT folks who get the phone calls after? Because it's a patient-rich.
Yeah, so we've had some fun onboarding experiences, right? I mean, you'll come in and everything's just a disaster. Or we're being brought in because they're letting someone from the IT staff go and that person has changed all the passwords and hasn't told anybody. So, onboarding definitely has better stories. But long term, it's that day-to-day support where you're building the relationship, and it's just like any relationship in life, professional or personal. It takes a lot of patience and understanding to build that foundation of trust.
Yeah. So without naming names or anything, what are one or two of the worst horror stories, whether they're funny or just horrible?
Yeah.
With onboarding and new clients. And
yeah,
stuff.
so I mean, I already mentioned the one. We've had a handful of circumstances where we'll go in and ultimately someone on the IT side's being let go, generally for performance reasons, and that person has gone out with a vengeance. So they have changed a bunch of things, they have reset a bunch of passwords, and we're able to work through it, but it takes a while. And sometimes the business is materially impacted until we're able to get things going again. Those are not fun. No matter how good we might feel about the opportunity to work with a new client or come in and fix things, those situations aren't fun. So that unfortunately is more common than we would like. In terms of other horror stories, it's generally when there's been a breach of some sort. And I can think of one client specifically in the last 12 months in the transportation industry they were subject to certain regulations around data that they had. And we went in, did a dark web scan, did some other security scans, and ultimately showed them that they had tens of millions of dollars of exposure. And they were really bringing us in to kind of just check a box. And on our end, our approach isn't we're going to come in and tell you a bunch of terrible things so that you hire us. Our approach is we're going to come in and we're going to objectively tell you what's going on. And it just so happened that they were not in a good state security-wise, which is very different than what their board thought. And so they actually had us come to their board meeting the next week to show them everything. And now they're a large client of ours, and they're in a much better circumstance. But again, the reason I call it a horror story, even though we got to work with them, is you identify millions and millions of dollars of liability risk, and there's no guarantee that that's not going to come to play at any moment or that the company will even make the right choices. And so your stomach kind of sinks when that happens because you've seen bad things happen in those circumstances, and you're just hoping that they'll make the investments they need to make to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. Be prepared is a good motto. What is a dark web scan?
Yeah, so it's where basically you can scan the dark web to see whose credentials from your company are for sale online. So a lot of times we'll run this for free for sales prospects or anyone we're meeting with. So let's say it's the Utah Jazz, and let's say their email domain is utahjazz.com. We can scan the dark web to see how many email addresses with utahjazz.com are for sale. And a lot of times we'll meet with our clients or prospects and say, oh no, there's no way. And there's always logins that pop up. And sometimes you can even see the first two letters of the password. And so, there are a couple instances where we'll be meeting with, the CFO or the CEO or the owner. And they'll say, no way. And then you'll just say, hey, does your password start with the letter D and the number 7? And all of a sudden they go from smiling to feeling very shaken. So yeah, we're able to run those scans, and for a lot of our clients that engage our services, we run them periodically so that we get alerts when anytime there are new credentials for sale on the dark web.
Yeah, I imagine that happens a lot of the sinking feeling and oh no.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And on our end, it's not meant to be a scare tactic. It's just to say, look, like, ultimately, people are your biggest liability when it comes to security. And, you may have really good password policies in place, but the reality is things are going to happen. And you're going to have people who make mistakes. And so, yes, we want to come in and limit those mistakes, but we also want to mitigate the consequences of those mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So who would be a fun and ideal customer to have that you currently don't have?
Yeah, so for us, we love to have partnerships where we are using a tool and they are also a client of ours. So for example, Podium's been a long-standing client of ours. We do all their help desk support, and it's also a product that we use internally. Most recently, we switched to the Divvy platform, which we've been big fans of, and it would be great to have them and other companies like that, here in Silicon Slopes as a client. For us, we've loved working with companies like Podium and others who are scaling so quickly, because when you're onboarding dozens of employees a month, when you are scaling that quickly, it's really hard to scale your IT staff. And so we're brought into a lot of startups as well as a lot of fast-growing, scaling companies, because the thought is, I don't have to make these one-time decisions of, okay, hire a person, then wait till it's too full and hire another person. We're able to flex with them and take a lot of the day-to-day IT off their plate, and that ends up being a huge win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's various levels of customers and clients, I would imagine, right? There's little Jimmy Lipper and his lemonade stand, and then there's government contracts and NASA and those types of things. How do you differentiate those with your team of, all right, this is a critical one because a dam could get flooded and or people could die?
Yeah, so ultimately for us, we distinguish it less by the size of the client and more so their needs. So probably the most prominent distinction is security needs. So we work with a lot of DoD contractors. And so to that end, we need to make sure from a security point of view, we have certain people staffed to that client. We have other clients who may be subject to certain regulations that, again, dictate who can work on that client. And so we have a lot of clients who would take background, do background checks. And so for us, that's kind of that first layer, is to make sure we've got the right team. And then the second layer is kind of, well, what are their needs, right? Are we coming in and are we their entire IT department? Are we playing the role of CTO down to help desk? Or are we just playing the role of help desk or just CTO? And then really it just becomes a matter of staffing, making sure we've got the right people with the right skill set. If there was to be a third layer, it might be that kind of qualitative assessment of personality. We work with some very polished financial firms here in Utah, here in the Bay. And we make sure that when we're assigning certain employees to that client, that they bring, that qualitative touch that's going to fit in with the culture. We also work with a lot of trucking companies. We work with a lot of companies where the language and the culture is a lot more relaxed. And we also want to make sure that we have people fit in. So, it's not uncommon for us to have that as part of our evaluation when we're trying to figure out what's the team we want to assign, who would be a good fit here. Not just in terms of technically, but also culture, because that's an important part of what we do. We're providing a service, and no matter how good the service is if you don't like the people you work with and rub shoulders with, it's not going to be a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably actually more critical if you don't like the person and you have to deal with it, then you might find another supplier. Overall, what's the macro trends in cloud security?
Yeah, so first with cloud, and this is something that we at Executech have embraced for many years now. A lot of other companies in IT they actually don't like change, because the thought is change brings the unknown. Our thought is our clients want to change, and they're looking to us to understand that change. So we can either fight it and be passed by, or we can be at the forefront of it and be a leader. And we've kind of taken that latter approach. So whether it's moving from hosting your email on site, moving to Microsoft 365 in the cloud, or taking all your servers that you have on premise and moving them all to Microsoft Azure. We've been doing that for many, many years. And really, that's just the trend is, a lot of these companies are realizing, as it relates to working remotely, as it relates to scaling, predictable costs, it's a lot easier and a lot more efficient to move to the cloud and to let companies like Microsoft and Google and Amazon do what they're good at so that your team can do what they're good at. And so really, we're having a lot of conversations with clients and prospects who just want to understand what it looks like to move your business to the cloud. What does that even mean? A lot of our clients have concerns about security in the cloud, and our thought is it's actually more secure to be in the cloud than to have 10 servers just in your closet, down from your office. And so we really see ourselves as guides, mentors, and coaches when it comes to what life looks like for a business moving to the cloud. And that's why, over the last 2 years, our cloud business has tripled in size without any dedicated sales or marketing. And we expect that to continue for a long time. On the security front, we've really seen it just explode in 2020. I think with more people working from home, realizing the vulnerability of having a scattered workforce, business leaders are thinking about it a lot more. And so for us, we want to make sure that we're meeting them where their needs are around having the right tools in place, whether it's antivirus, ransomware protection, firewall monitoring, to services around, SOC as a service or phishing simulations, things as easy as an annual employee security awareness training. And for us, we really expect security to not just be a fad, but for something that's going to become a critical part of anybody's IT strategy moving forward.
Yeah. Very intense. So you've got, the mechanic whose car barely runs and the landscaper whose lawn looks like crap because they don't want to deal with their own house or their own thing. So do you guys, obviously, do you guys do stuff in-house to prove some of your concepts or kind of find stories of caution?
In terms of, doing IT stuff within Executech?
Yeah, testing the waters on it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times we will pilot a tool or a software internally or with a small group first. We don't necessarily want to have the first time we're familiarizing ourselves with something after we deploy it at a client. So that's definitely our approach. We very rarely will go out and deploy something at a client that we haven't tested ourselves.
Gotcha. And you don't want to be the one getting caught.
Oh, yeah. No, and I mean, the thing is what's tough is a lot of these tools, they're not tools that we created, right? Like, for example, Microsoft had a huge outage yesterday. So for any of our clients that are using 365 for their email, they're looking to us, right? Can you fix this? How do you solve this? And so for us, we could not control that Microsoft outage. But what we could control was communicating and keeping them up to date and workarounds or other ideas. But it's not uncommon, right, for these tools that we use to have little bumps in the road, and we have to answer for that. And so it's just making sure that we're in a position to communicate well and to address those concerns when they come up.
Gotcha. And for you and your team, as far as like the talent lies, are there folks that are better at Google, folks that are better at Apple, folks that are better at databases, Microsoft, all the different things?
Yeah, so, I guess first off, I would say we are huge on training, and we have to be, right? We're in technology. If we expect to grow with technology, our people have to grow with technology. So we invest a lot in training. We have weekly mandatory trainings. We have weekly optional trainings. We have our own training department. So that's a big part of what we do. So when somebody first starts at Executech, assuming they're a relatively junior person, we're really trying to cast a wide net in terms of skill development. And then over time, we have what's called the Executech path. And this is where they can progress to become kind of subject matter experts. So whether it's AWS or Microsoft Azure or security, And so, over time, we definitely have people that are starting to specialize. And so while most everyone at Executech is a generalist when it comes to IT support, when it comes to more sophisticated IT director level support, we generally have experts. And I think that's actually, not trying to provide a sales pitch, but I think that's one of the benefits of why our clients do outsource their IT, is because you now have a team behind the service that you're procuring, right? If I've got an IT staff of just 3, that's what I've got to work with in terms of experience, knowledge, expertise. I work with Executech. I'm working with a team of 150 plus IT professionals that have hundreds of years of experience. We have seen pretty much everything. And so we've got the team to solve those issues. And that deep bench is a big value for our clients.
Yeah, that would be nice to have a bigger team when you're limited. With all things business related, there's folks that are prognosticating the colors of fall for 2023 and all of that. Who on your team is the best at predicting the future of the Executech business model as it pertains to this is coming down the chute, let's get ready?
Yeah, so I really look to our sales team a lot for that type of leadership in terms of what are clients and organizations out there looking for in a partner, right? And you'll notice that I didn't answer first with a technology answer, and that's because it's a given that we have to adapt with technology and that we will. And so to me, it's less about whether or not we'll be able to make life work with the new technology that's out there. We will. It's more so, will we be able to deliver service in a way that jives with how organizations more generally are evolving? So you think about more companies having a work from home type environment, more spread out culture, right? To me, that begs the question more of how do we deliver service as opposed to what technology do we work with. We can figure out the right technology, but making sure that we've got a model in place that works for them. And our sales team is out there on a daily basis talking to prospects, learning about what their needs are, what they're looking for. So, they might chuckle when they hear that and say, oh, I didn't know that. But when I get their feedback about what they're hearing, what companies out there need, it's extremely valuable.
Yeah. Overall, how naive do you think your prospective customers are on what their IT needs, but then also what could go wrong if they're not prepared?
Yeah, so probably a lot higher than they think or that we would like them to be. We have a ton of great clients and prospects who will very humbly say, look, I have no idea, and that's why I'm reaching out to you. I need help. And we love being brought into a situation like that because we think we're pretty good at what we do. And so for us to hear that we're being looked to for that leadership, great. There are plenty of clients who know a lot, and especially if they have IT staff on hand, right? But it's very common. We're working with a lot of companies that are going through their own maturation process, have been doing business the same way for many years. And it's very common for them to underestimate how behind they are on technology or how poor their security is. And for us, what I tell our guys is, look, we're not here to win an argument. We're not here to make a point. We're here to help. So there's no point in trying to prove that, hey, you're wrong, you're way behind. And so we really try to prioritize, look, if we could only have one impact here, if we could only change one thing, if we could only come in and help in one way, what's going to be the biggest thing we can do to help the client? And we find that when we prioritize that way, our clients are a lot more receptive to acknowledging where they might be coming up short, because rather than feeling like there's this laundry list that they see as a reflection on them, it's more so, here are future investments that's going to help you grow, and that's just a much easier conversation to have.
Yeah. So with you guys, whether it's your sales folks or your implementation engineers, you're often on the front lines, and with that, you have a clearer picture of what could be, right? So, and plus people have imaginations and are entrepreneurial. What happens when one of your employees this doesn't exist? It would be great if it did. Do you guys ever build anything yourselves?
So, I mean, we have to be creative all the time. What's funny is our CTO got his degree in art. And a lot of our guys, you know, they grew up playing Legos. They like playing video games like Minecraft. They are builders. They're very creative minds. And so it is not at all uncommon for us to come into a situation where a client is asking for something and, you know, we tell them, look, like that doesn't exist, or what you're saying, we get what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, I would say creativity is huge in our line of work. You know, I talked about earlier, hey, we've seen everything. But the reality is we're working with a lot of really smart organizations that are thinking of new ways of doing things that are relatively unique. And maybe we have seen it, or maybe it's just a solution we haven't implemented before because it doesn't make sense or because the technology doesn't exist yet. But on our end, you know, we see coming up with creative solutions to meet the client's need as a big part of what we do.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, since the dawn of man, there's always been somebody that comes up with something, and then there's quickly on their heels somebody that's stealing from or exploiting.
And you know, there's a big difference between a client who has a bright idea, and you know, that's exciting, right? Working with them of how do we get this accomplished. But that's different than clients who may have unreasonable expectations. I mean, I remember one time I was meeting with the CEO at one of our clients, and you know, at one point he just looked me straight in the eye. He's like, look, I just want our IT, my computer, everything to never, ever have any problems whatsoever. I said, no, that's a great desire, but ultimately, you know, in technology and IT, between updates, between needed patches, between the fact that you've got threat actors out there, you know, IT is not one of those things that you solve and you just come back 10 years later and check up on it, right? Yeah. IT is an investment. You know, it's kind of like your physical health, right? If you stop going to the gym, if you stop eating well, your physical health is going to be eroded. And it's the same thing with your IT health. If you aren't making those updates, if you aren't making those investments, it's going to be eroded. But at the same time, there's always more progress to be had.
Cool. Last questions, I'll weave two together and we'll wrap it up. But what keeps you up at night, and then what are you going to do about that as you guys grow for 2020, 2021?
Yeah, so you know, if you would have asked me a year ago what keeps me up at night, I would have said, you know, it would have been something external. It would have been something related to security, right? Around all the security threats that are out there. And that's still very top of mind, and yes, it keeps me up at night at times. But I would say in 2020, the thing that I really think about a lot is the great team we have at Executech. You know, it's been a hard year. With COVID, social unrest, with the election coming up. And, you know, before this year, you know, when we talk about burnout, a lot of times we're talking about people just being burnt out at work. But I think there's a lot of burnout for people happening outside of work. And, you know, I take very seriously the fact that we employ people, that we are their source of livelihood. And you spend enough time at work that if you're not happy at work, you know, that's a big deal. And so we work really hard to provide a meaningful experience for people at Executech. And so, you know, for me, I'm constantly thinking about what's going on in the world, what that means for our employees, how are they dealing with their mental health, what can we do to support them. And we can't do everything for them. We're not meant to. But I think a lot about what are those investments we can make, what's the coaching we can provide, what are the resources, the partnership, the patience, the training, the culture to help them have an amazing experience at Executech, so that even if there is stuff going on outside of Executech that's bringing them down or is hard for them, you know, we can be at peace knowing that we're at least a source of fulfillment and joy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fun and informative. So thank you, DJ, for being a part of this, and thank you, everyone, for participating in this Silicon Slopes Town Hall.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenna Eyre. I'm an associate with CBRE, and I focus on occupiers in the market and tenant representation. CBRE is pleased to partner with Silicon Slopes in hosting these town hall events. As the largest commercial real estate services firm on the globe, we pride ourselves in having the most robust and flexible technology services platform in the industry. We tailor custom results to every client we serve. That includes our many technology clients. CBRE offers a full suite of services designed to add value and drive business to your bottom line. This includes the ability to help you determine how much space you might need. It also includes tools that allow you to analyze workforce demographics to determine which area and location might best suit your company's future growth. If it's design services you need, CBRE has tools that allow you to custom design your own floor plan and test fit to drive you to occupancy faster and money to your bottom line. CBRE understands our technology clients because CBRE is a technology-driven company. CBRE invests in technology to help you invest in your growth. To learn more about how CBRE can help service your real estate needs, visit cbre.com.